Everybody's itching to let's open this up and talk about it. It's been talked about in the corners and people are saying, okay, so now what do we do? Schools are burning up in flames. Others are saying, okay, fine. Janet Ouko is here and she's Executive Director of Tunzam Total Coalition. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm all right, thank you.
You okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Karibu sana. There's a lot to talk about.
Sure.
Everybody's upset. Schools are burning. Others are closing down. Others are saying shut down tuck shops. But okay, let's get into that after Dennis tells you what the people of Guinea are saying.
Okay. The people of Guinea are saying today we are rich in diamond and bauxite. Now, bauxite is important because it goes into the manufacture of aluminium.
Okay.
Aluminium, Americans call it aluminum. I don't know why, but they call it aluminum, right? But aluminum is becoming one of the most special and important metal because talk about your cars today, your phones, all that. Bauxite is important in that, and it is the world leading producer of bauxite. But let's go to the proverb. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. How would you interpret it?
Yeah, because I do not know, apart from probably getting blunt, I do not know that the axe suffers any consequences. But you see, for a tree, it can include entire deaths, especially for those that don't sprout. You know, it can actually die completely. So I'm imagining that the axe could probably, in the context that we want to get into, you know, you that is a policymaker, you know, like holding a pen, there are no consequences that accrue to you, whether you become careless or not. But there are people, especially children, in this situation. I would consider them the trees. They will live with the consequences of bad policies forever and ever. And there are those who will die, like they died, and their parents who lost their children. Bad policies.
You know, you just talked about an entire generation, because think of a tree. As it grows fruits, talk about seeds, and that generation continues. You cut it, and everything just ends and shut.
Yeah, indeed.
Well,
also, just after we had a last conversation with you, and then we woke up to the terrible news of the school fire that took place at Utumishi Girls Academy, and 16 girls died, quite a number injured, and then, you know, this whole hullabaloo started. Interestingly enough, the school fires in the second term did not start at Utumishi. They started in Taita Taveta. There were 31 students who were brought before court, 12 schools having been burnt. That was a conversation that was already being had. And then, no pun intended, but then the fire started to fly, or like wildfire, everywhere. And almost 100 schools in the last 1 week have closed. And there are many quarters of a conversation that are starting to sprout, Janet, whereby folks are saying that we're dealing with rogue, indisciplined, demon children who are trying to use indiscipline to rule the roost, and that we need to bring back things like corporal punishment so that you beat the hell out of these children so that they behave themselves and will not have school fires. Interestingly enough, people who are the policymakers, like you said, have said the way to deal with this thing is to deal with the few who are causing these problems. It's not a widespread problem. Deal with them, put them in jail, and then we'll sort out this issue once and for all. What are your thoughts as to the unrest in schools at the moment, and what are we dealing with? It's not one problem, obviously. Sounds like a multi-layered issue, but where do you see all of this at the moment?
I want to first use this opportunity to, really send condolences to the families of the children that we lost. I have not had an opportunity to address press because Utumishi Girls is very close to my heart. I went to school in Nevasha Girls, and when I did, Utumishi boys were our boys, you know, quote unquote.
Your boys' school.
And so by extension, Utumishi Girls is family. And I know quite a number of parents that have their children in Utumishi Girls because the way our infrastructure is layered is such that when you trust a school, your friends are likely to trust it. If you went to a good school, you know, you're likely to recommend it to people. And so we have quite a number of friends who we went to school together that have children in that school. And one of them, as we speak, the child is really in hospital, really badly off. So it has been so close home. And so a lot of the conversations that even we have had with the parents have really enriched how I think about this whole thing, because they're children that are known to us, their families that are known to us. And so when you look at people brandishing texts saying that children are brought up badly, it is not. It's not entirely the truth. It's not entirely the truth. I know of children who are really very well brought up, but the underlying issues, and I want to spend quite some more time really discussing what exactly is this that we are seeing. And it is also not correct for somebody like the PS for Education to say that this is a small problem. 16 children are too many. It cannot, even if one child dies in school, it's a national crisis. We can now not dismiss it and say that it is only a section. It is not like, no. Yeah. This is a very, 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 very serious issue, and I want to call out the casual manner in which we saw the PS addressing this national crisis. Number one, even the setup was wrong. You cannot be addressing such serious issues in a political baraza. And we want to call upon this government. Can we stop politics for a while? Let's stop politics for a while. I know that if it were a child of one of you that was today in the morgue, or we are trying to identify the DNAs, probably that could call your senses to order. But that it is not anybody that you know, probably. That is why you're so much casually dealing with this issue. I also want to just attract our attention to a section of parents. Can you imagine that the moment probably that fire broke up, everybody was rushing to the school, and everybody really, the anxiety. And only for you to get to the school and you're told that your child is the one that lit the matchbox.
Yep.
And I have spent time with 4 of those parents that reached out to me when they saw something that I posted, because I honestly feel that it's a very difficult place to be. Everyone is sending condolences to those that lost their children. But their parents today, their lives have been changed completely. They are oscillating from school to police cell, from this law house to the other. I mean, and it is not an easy place to get yourself. And I want to tell the parents of this country, it can be you. Anytime. It actually can be you. So that the assumptions that these are poorly brought up children and so on, I think we want to come to a place and say that really there's a parenting conversation that we need to have. But I do not think that it is a parenting conversation per se. Why is it that nobody has burnt their parent? Why is it that these children have not burnt their homes? Why is it that they're not burning the labs? Why is it that they're not burning the libraries? Why? There is something that these children are telling us about their conditions of living. We can bury our heads in the sand all we want, and we can preach to them. But that does not change the fact that if children are feeling dissatisfied and there are no channels of expressing themselves, because even to parents, I'm not even at this moment criticizing the school. Sometimes children have tried to tell us something, even as parents, but we did not. We scratched it off like hautaki shule when a child tries to raise an issue with you about certain circumstances. Because let me tell you, we all want to pretend that we did not see that the dormitory in Utumishi Girls, even the corridor had beds. The corridor had beds.
Yes.
So what does that tell us about the congestion in that particular space? And what does that tell us about the living conditions? Because this is what government has done over time, including that is what the government will do this year. They know too well that dormitory has a capacity of 79, but they will allocate 200 girls to you, to the school. So there is nothing that you can do as a head teacher. There isn't anything that you can do because it is law. It is policy of the Ministry of Education, 100% transition. But what exactly is this? Even next year, because population is not going down. Every year you have more than the last year that you had. And that's the characteristic of population growth. Even next year, the same dormitory that we are complaining that was housing 200 kids will house 220. The miracle that the heads of schools are doing in this country is immense. It's a miracle how they are containing these children in school. And so these are the underlying issues that we really need to talk about. We cannot legislate morals. We cannot. The best that we have tried to do is come up with school rules. And every child, as far as I'm concerned, that contravened school rules, the schools have a way of dealing with
that, yeah.
of dealing with those issues. You know that. But now this has gone an extra mile, and that is why we are saying every child should face the consequences, because now these are criminal activities, and for criminal activities we have the law. Let them be processed according to the law. But how about us as citizens of this country? We owe ourselves to get to the root cause of these issues. Why are we seeing this trend growing? Is there something that these children are telling us? Because honestly, I do not think that it is fair for us to ignore what the children are saying and show them the law. That if you ban, you go to prison. Mm-hmm. What is it that the children are saying? And I'm here asking, for example, let us look at, there are two issues to this thing. We cannot guarantee 100% scenario, even in our homes.
No.
And that's why we have insurance. A fire can break up, That is why we have insurance and so on and so forth. So in the event a fire breaks up, the conversation that we want to have with the Ministry of Education today, why are we having so many casualties? Mm-hmm. Because that is why the safety standards existed in the first place.
Yes.
Had it been, I posed to ask this question, and I'm asking the CS and the PS. If this was a private school, for example, do you know what could have happened by now? Mm-hmm. The proprietor could be in jail as we speak. The school could have been closed down, and the certificates, God knows what would have happened to that certificate if it were a private school. But now that it is a public school, do we look at ourselves as government and say, this is where we erred, this is what went wrong, this is where we went wrong, this is where we did not enforce the safety standards, the manuals that we have ourselves developed. So when it comes to public schools, we are soft on it. We are soft.
Why? Because it has a direct correlation between
with
your
our
performance.
failures. Because it is our failures as government, and we do not want to acknowledge that it is our failure. That is why we will not look at ourselves. And even today, if you ask what has been done, remember the Russia saga.
Yes.
It was a private school. Do you remember how the muscles moved? It was, the activities were just too many. The school closed down. They has to do A, B, C, and D. If the government today could provide us with an audit of how are our public schools, what is the safety? What are the safety standards of our public schools? I would want to see that.
But Janet, this has been commissioned time without number. The former PS, whom you quote a lot, Kimemia, sat over what are they called? I don't even know. Commission, whatever it was, after a very terrible fire that claimed the lives of many children. They sat, a commission was formed, headed by a chairperson. They had standards that came out of that committee sitting. None of them were implemented. 4 years later, yet another commission implemented to look at these issues. It mirrored the findings of the first one. 8 years later, and this, we'll look into the details, but then yet another commission was established. And you know what? The similar thing is, from all 5 of these commissions, with only 2 being the same chair, the results are the same. The recommendations mirror each other. But you know what? None of them have been implemented. None. So why put together experts? Because this thing that we're talking about, address the issues, they've been addressed over the last 30 years. People have come up with them. The last one was Claire Omolo. They have them. If they were to look somewhere in the dust-gathered walls and halls of Jogo House, they would find them. But to implement them is a problem. So we're looking at serious issues here. The thing that you say, that because they're students, they ought not to be listened to. They need to do what they're told. We don't want to talk about the fact that capitation is an issue. And in the event that you do not send capitation to schools, guess what? There will be frustration. Do you really think now that all these schools that are closing because somebody set a fire somewhere? No, they're sending a message to you and they're telling you something. So when are we going to address the issue? More schools closed yesterday, even after PSB Talk said whatever he said on Sunday. More schools will close today. I mean, it's like clockwork. Like in the next 31 minutes, it will be 9 o'clock.
Night, Muhuri Mushiri,
they will close today. They will. So when are we going to address the issue?
No, and I think that where we sit now, you know, some of us have been called perpetual complainers. And when we talk about, we cannot talk about education in isolation. We have been accused of doing politics in education. But it is now clear that the frustrations of not sending money to schools, one might think that that frustration is hitting the parent. But no, it is not hitting the parent. It is hitting the child. And here is how. Children are with us in the families. They know when we are stressed for finances. They know when we are stressed for finances. And do not think that that stress does not translate to them. It does translate to them. Children are watching our government. They are watching. And they're wondering, there is nobody who has any plan in the near future to get us from the situations that we are finding ourselves in. There is nobody who has got that plan. Because nobody is thinking about funding. We are congested. Our situation is worsening by the day, every day, and nobody is planning to do anything about it. And I want to implore on my fellow Kenyans that let us not simplify this thing to only mean that it's a factor of indiscipline.
Yeah.
It is not that simple. It is not that simple. Let us also acknowledge that the children of today cannot be the same as us.
Yes.
The way we were brought up, and I'm not glorifying the cane because I'm seeing people saying bring back the cane. Good people, the law is just the law. The Children Act bans you from corporal punishment and punishing children. There's nothing we can do about it. Just the same way the law gives you opportunity for fair trial, is the same way the same law gives a child their own rights. You cannot now casually say, let us bring back corporal punishment to schools. No, the law is just the law. So how do we operate, within the law? And how do we make sure that we open up alternative discipline, mechanisms? But let us also understand that it comes with responsibility. Please don't require children not to ask you questions.
Yeah.
Don't require that. It is not in discipline when our children are talking to
time instead of investing and ensuring that our school in Uriri in Migori County is the same as Alliance in Kiambu County. Are we afraid in investing? Is it that we don't want to invest, or we're just looking at things the way they have been since the colonial period?
Yeah, of course we are stuck because most of the policy implementers are not open to the modern way or the new ways of doing things or the new realities. A lot of them will be telling you, but I went to a boarding school and there was a lot of discipline. But hey, dude, you guys were sleeping 60 or 40 in a dormitory. So the same dormitory visit there today, it is hosting 300. Can we now have remove yourself from that time when you went to school in the 1990s and bring yourself now to 2026 right now, 2025, where we are saying the facility that you enjoyed, that had 40 of you, right now it has 300 of us. Explain
so
to
you can't compare.
You cannot compare, and everything else has grown, including the fact that we honestly need to think about this, and I know that sometimes I have ideas that people say that they shock you, but I want to imagine in this age that we lock children in a space where, and we tell them there are no technology gadgets. There are no technology.
You can go to the lab once a week.
Yeah. You guys, are we then okay? Like, where? In 2025, we are telling children we are locking you up in a space where you will not interact with technology. Because why? We are looking at technology from the point of
misbehavior.
The devil has blinded us so much so that we cannot enjoy the advantages of technology that can even cure the teacher shortages that we are having. I mean, so we need to rethink. We need to rethink education, and we need to. And I thought that COVID times provided some sort of good shifts, where we learned that we don't even need offices anymore. We don't need all this. You can actually settle somewhere with your laptop, anywhere with your laptop and do your thing. Why why are we still insisting on doing things the colonial times way? Why are we insisting? Yet ourselves who are outside here, not in those schools, are not doing things that way.
It's interesting that you say that, Gladys, Janet. You know why? Because it's Gladys who just sent me this, and I'm asking. We introduced a curriculum in 2019. Stay with me here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. They are current grade 10s. They are the latest entrance into this boarding system that has come from a place whereby you walk in the hallway, and if you see your senior, you nod. You don't even look them in the eye because that shows disrespect. You never answer back to a teacher. If they ask you a question, you look into space as though you don't understand what they're saying, because again, it would show disrespect. This grade 10, you have introduced them to a curriculum whereby they are supposed to ask questions. They are supposed to, if it doesn't make sense, say, excuse me, this doesn't make sense. You're looking at holistic learning that encompasses the social aspect as well as the subject. And now you've introduced them now into a boarding system whereby you are asking them to keep quiet, don't ask questions, eat the weevils, and let's just keep it moving. Don't ask questions about why you must shave your head. Don't ask questions about why you must have your hair plaited. Don't ask questions about why you can't use technology. Meanwhile, the last 7 years, these are the same things that you have been doing. Then you come and put them in this space, and then you will wonder why they ask you. And if they do or behave in a certain way, you beat them to within an inch of their lives. And then they're not supposed to ask, are these working at cross purposes?
I said it here that honestly sometimes I'm feeling a bit uncomfortable when people throw around the thing of indiscipline, and I'm feeling like we're not unpacking it in the way that we should. And I'm glad that the listener has given us some very valuable feedback. It is that high school or the boarding, I want to concentrate on the boarding, because when you in your day, when you go back home, you now come back to the real life where you got your gadgets and you're able to communicate and all that, and even Google and do things on your phone and live a normal life. But now the children who were used to this one, and they have now gone to an enclosed space where it is only textbook. And lab,
if that,
and lab hours are measured. They're not even 2 hours,
and not every day.
Give or take 45 minutes, and not every day, and not a laptop or a PC for everyone. So these are honestly the conversations that we must have, and we must have those conversations. And I'm choosing to have this conversation, knowing so well there's some parents that will be saying you are encouraging this. No. Can we support ourselves to have very, very, very candid conversations from the child's perspective? Then I like what you said, that yes, banning dormitories is really, really, really bad. But we cannot gaslight our children. That we put them in circumstances, and when they do something out of probably protest, or they want to communicate with you because you've closed all the channels of communication, because when I tell you this, you will call me indisciplined, you will call my mother in school, and probably show my parents that I'm this or that. We are gaslighting our children. Can we address the root cause of the problems that the children are having? And that is why I was feeling that in this kind of situation, let us put politics aside and let us experience some leadership from the Ministry of Education. Can the ministry provide a forum or a platform for where we can discuss this concept? It is not a discussion about school fires, because school fires, the only thing that we can discuss is summarized in the manual.
Are they just a symptom? Because we have to ask, why are we burnt? So according to you, why are schools being burnt? Whether it's the dormitory, whether it's the storeroom, whatever the case may be. The PS, who is the officer in charge of this implementation that we're talking about, and this sector where this is happening, has said no, it's just some rogue people that we need to throw in jail. That's his solution to this.
No, it's unfortunate. And that is why we always talk about meritocracy in appointing people in places such as those ones. At least now Kenyans have seen what kind of a joke that can be put to supervise over a very, very, very serious issue. I have no problem with what the PA said, but I have a very big problem that he chose to say it in a political rally. It was in very bad taste, and it shouldn't have happened. These are very serious conversations. These are very, very, very serious conversations, and conversations that affect the whole country. I have a problem with him dismissing it as some pockets, as some pockets. We are talking about how many schools. The tally today is 100 and something schools that have been closed. Some with very serious and bad incidences, such as Utumishi girls, and listening to an officer of high rank, such as the PS, dismissing this as and children that can be locked up in jail. And I wanted to tell him, careful. Yes. Just careful, because it could have been your child.
It's interesting because just a couple of weeks, maybe about 3 weeks ago, he was in Nakuru County for a forum where school children were talking about their issues, and a girl stood up because there's a KNEC exam waiting for grade 10s.
Yes,
is it not on the 30th of June, if I'm not wrong? That week there is an assessment exam. It's a big one for grade 10s, one of the first ones that they must do. And this girl stood up and she said, now, there are, I don't know how many of us in this class. The books are 6. The textbooks are 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 700 and something of us. We don't have books for an exam that we are going to write in June.
Yes.
The same PS stood and promised and pointed at some people and said, don't worry, by then we'll have the books. Guess what? That school is one of the ones that has closed in Nakuru County. One of the ones that has closed because of these things that we are talking about. So some of the frustrations that we see, that girls just want to go to a concert, I don't know by which person, or that girls don't want to, or students want to be lesbians or homosexuals, or that students want to just burn the school, or they want to eat bread and they don't want duma. It goes at how about children actually want to study, but they don't have the materials that they need to then be able to do it?
And it's unfortunate. Because from where I sit, a lot of these issues have been discussed by children themselves, not even adults.
True.
The kind of children we have right now are even more competent than their parents. I'm afraid to say. You saw when we were having the finance bill conversations, that children are the ones that led the conversations, and the kinds of analysis that they were doing was amazing. We haven't done that kind of advocacy in a whole lot. And because of the exposure that these children have had, they're the technology children that have grown up with a lot of information around them and so on. And so when they are raising issues, I dare say that we have one end that has grown so much, and that is the children that have grown so much. And then we have our end, both parents and also because the people who are sitting in policy tables right now have been drawn from our population. People who are either in denial about the kind of speed, the kind of analysis, the kind of confidence that these children are having, and people who do not want to adjust. They do not want to adjust, and that is why it is very lazy to call these children indisciplined. If you ask that, if a child has given you evidence that, hey, boss, we are looking at doing an exam in less than 1 month, we do not have textbooks. So do you know that child is not asking you to bring those textbooks next week? Because anyway,
the child is telling you that we're unprepared.
I want them.
The child is telling you, okay, how are you expecting us to sit an examination that you have not enabled us to prepare for? That is what that child is saying.
Yes.
But this person just chooses to dismiss them, that the books will come last week. If you gave that child more opportunities for asking you the question, they would have asked you. So why didn't they come last month when they were supposed to come, so that they can be helpful?
Why didn't they
to
come
us?
in January when we started the term? Why didn't they come
when they were supposed to help us to do the revisions? But because we do not want to have uncomfortable conversations with the children, because we have a lot to hide, because we do not want to be accountable, we label them indisciplined. We call their confidence indiscipline. And it is us that do not want to be accountable to the children. I mean, it's an embarrassment. And that's why I am saying, let us have a conversation that leads us somewhere. And that conversation must be led by us saying. It's just like saying that you're running German Shepherds in your house. And you clearly cannot afford the meals. Ugali and sukuma wiki you're not affording, but you're having German Shepherds, you're feeding on very hefty. That is what we are doing right now. We are insisting as a country that we actually can manage boarding facilities. We can manage. Who is having the pressure? Parents are having immense pressure. Parents are having pressure. Because why? because for you to afford all the boarding items, especially during admission, it's 50K plus.
Yeah.
And now afford the fees. When the same government is telling us we are running a free day secondary education, why isn't this same government, if it really believes in day schooling so much, why isn't it opening up all the premium schools to day wings? Don't you think that it is being so, I don't know, can you imagine a school enjoying 20 acres of land or even 30 acres of land, only telling us we can only do 3,000 girls because of bed space? How do you even begin arguing that we have a shortage of land for doing schools, whereas we are only narrowing down access to bed space,
bed capacity?
To bed capacity. We are not okay. We are not okay. We don't know what we are doing. And I like what you said, that we are doing protectionist policy. That when heads of big schools complain that no, we do not want day wings in our schools, those schools are not yours.
Yeah.
These are Kenyan facilities. Let us get to terms with, and let us deal with the discipline issues. In any case, we are in boarding situations, but the indisciplined situations, look at where they're leading us. So we cannot dismiss day school. We do not want day school because they will come and contaminate. Come on.
I'd like you to stay on a little bit more, Janet, because it's necessary for it to be part of the next conversation where we bring in a psychologist to look at some of these issues, because some of the things that are raised, we want to imagine that, they don't matter. After all, you're in school to read. When children are complaining about the state of facilities like toilets and bathrooms, when they're talking about the food that they're being subjected to eating and the manner in which it is prepared, when you talk about how even the hygiene around some things, are these valid issues, or are children just making noise and they should actually just go to school and go and read? We're talking about unrest in schools. Janet Ouko is here. We're going to be joined by psychologists in the next hour to look a little bit deeper into these issues. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your